Good morning, everybody. Well, it's the Monday after Easter, and I'm out here in the shop again. I'll take you on a little tour of what I've done so far out here, but I wanted to focus on the 47 since this is a 47 Ford episode that I'm doing today. I've been gathering parts. They've been scattered all over the shop and upstairs in the top of the barn and so forth, somewhere in the car, and just getting a game plan here on what I want to do, so I have that. So I'll kind of go through that with you first. Let's take you over there for a second here. Get you a little closer. So the first thing that I did yesterday, I didn't get the video camera going because I was in kind of a hurry. Got a quarter glass in on this side. I didn't video that process, partly because I had a very limited amount of time and didn't have time to do the video. And there was a few things that I needed to work out, just how I was going to do it, which I've done, so that's good. So when I do the other side, I'll get the phone out and we'll get the video going here and get it done. So let's take you on a little bit tour of what I've got and what my plan is and what I'm going to be doing, and just kind of show you some of the stuff that I've gathered up. I think I found most everything. It's been in boxes in different places, and over the years that we've been here in this shop, because we rebuilt this shop inside completely. Tore down. This is an old farm barn, and this over what I call the body shop, where the Oakland is behind you here, was all rotted, and so we gutted this and completely rebuilt it all with big heavy hardwood beams and hardwood planking and so forth. So stuff just got moved all over the place in the process of that. And so it's been just time of me remembering what I have and gathering it up. As, for example, some things I forgot, like the gas pedal. But as my mind has been going on, and I found the wiring harnesses that I bought for it, and all kinds of brand new tail lights and front marker lights, and lots of stuff for the car. So anyway, I've been trying to put things in areas here, and so let's do a quick walk around, and I'll talk about what we've got going. Okay, so the first thing that I'm working on is I decided that I want to get the back end of the car buttoned up, and all I have left to do on the back of the car is the rear bumperette that I made, the tail lights, get the tail lights mounted with the new stainless rings and brand new tail lights, and those are original Ford Motor Parts service stuff that I picked up at a swap meet, brand new in the package, new old stock stuff. So that was an exciting find. Doesn't necessarily mean that this car needed that stuff. Probably repop stuff would have been fine, but I got it and I'm happy with it. So, and the prices were good. Okay, so I've got the fenders over here now in front of the Oakland. They've been sitting a long time over there in that corner, and they're going to get attention soon, but right now they're just kind of sitting here, and I'll work on those soon enough. Another project car that I have is a 74 Dark Swinger. It's the one you see outside a lot in some of these videos. So I decided to put all the 74 Swinger stuff, the new quarter panels, the hood, other things over there, with the exception of that's my door glass and quarter glass for the 47 that will be getting installed soon. Cleaned up a lot of the body shop, put all my stuff in a file cabinet back here now. The bench was cleared till this morning. I dragged out all the paint materials that I have stored up for this car. Most of it feels like it's still good stuff, even though it's getting quite old. So I'm real happy with that, and including some primer that I had that I didn't have to buy, so I'm happy about that. So that's what we got going on there. I'll take you over to the other dirty part of the shop over here. I'm still in the process of organizing and cleaning from years of neglect. So back on this bench back here, particularly the one I want to show you is I found these two boxes of parts. That's where the wiring harness is, the old fender welting that I need, new fender welting, the taillight assemblies, all that stuff is all in here. So that's good. And then some of the other stuff is up here in the corner, like the radiator shroud, the new gas pedal that I didn't need to make, headlight rings, all that stuff's up there. And then the front bumperette that I made is also here. The rest of the stuff is 69 Charger stuff from my son's car that's over in the other garage. But so I'm getting it organized. This corner here is going to be happening soon, and I'll be getting this put together and straightened up some. So, also the brand new grill moldings are right here in this box. See if I can get it opened up for you, so you can see all the brand new chrome that goes on the front of the car, which is stuff I absolutely love and is really exciting to have. So that will be eventually going on the car. So as I mentioned, my project today is going to be, I want to get this bumperette cleaned up. It's just got a lot of dirt and dust from the remodeling and I'm sitting out here in the shop for years. And the tail lights, these need to be primed in the yellow buff primer. So that's what I'm going to be focused on today. Probably I'll get that cleaned up. That way when I have primer in the gun, if I need to touch some things up on that, I can. It looks like there's a few spots that maybe do need to be just sitting around. But these need to be scuffed down and primed in the yellow buff primer to get ready for paint. So that's what I want to do today. It's a very windy day. We're supposed to get a storm, so I may have to quit. I don't like being out here when it's too windy. It's a very, very old building. It's close to 100 years old. And not that I'm worried about it coming down because we rebuilt it all, but I just don't like the sound of listening to the thing creak out here. It's hard to heat when it's really windy too. So I don't have my big furnace fired up right now. I ran out of propane, and while we're in this isolation state, I'm not going to get propane. I'm just using my electric heater up here, which works fine. Thanks, Chris, for coming up and installing that last year. But anyway, so that's where we're at. That's what I'm going to be working on. So there you go for this episode of My Car's Shop 47 Ford Hot Rod Project. Okay, so this is a great opportunity here to talk about the 3 stages. If you can see, this is shot with polyester primer. It's got a lot of rippling and so forth. This is a high fill primer. It's almost a spray Bondo. And it just does a nice job of filling in the little imperfections. And it's not totally a spray Bondo, but it's a step between primer and spot putty basically, and just cuts down a lot of sanding work in the regular primer, and it's a lot cheaper. So this one's untouched. It was sprayed years ago with that polyester, and that's what it looks like. So when I quit working on this one I had scuffed down. It needs to be scuffed again, but it's almost ready to be shot with the the high fill 2K DuPont primer that I used for primer surfacing right before I paint it. And so you can see this is sanded down with probably 220 grit maybe. Not sure. It will be sanded again with 220. A little bit of rust where it blew through because I was intending to prime it and I never got back to it. One end I didn't touch. So that's the next step. And then the beautiful thing is this rear bumper cover, or this rear bumperette, is in the buff prime, and it is almost ready to paint. It's got a couple little flaws in it from sitting around, and I need to dust it one more time with that primer. I feel a couple minor imperfections here. This is on the bottom side. This goes on the car like this. So I want to bring you in on this and let you see it. A couple things on this. The way I built this, this was the original splash apron. This right here, this part, was part of the original splash apron that went on the body between the body and the bumper, which stuck out about 6 inches. So how I built this was I took that panel and I made a contour that I wanted that followed the contour of the car, and then I cut it with my plasma cutter at this little over an inch, probably 1.25 inches width. And so this original piece here that I'm tracing with my fingers is the original piece that bolted to the car. You can see those are the original holes there. So then what I did, and then I took the bottom of it, rephrase that, no, I made all the rest of this myself. This bottom piece, I took a piece of sheet metal and cut it to a contour that fit up underneath the car, and then bolts to the bottom of the fenders, I believe, on both sides. And also then this piece in here is another piece that I made out of sheet metal to face it off. And I brought it all together and welded it down here across. You can see, slow down here. And I also welded it up under there where you can't see. Let's see if we can flip it up. Yeah, you can see that I welded up in there as well. There's a couple of original pieces because this was originally a 3-piece thing. I forgot that till right now. And so anyway, I made all of this and then filled it with tiger hair, sanded it down, got it roughed in. There's actually not a lot of mud in this, but then a layer of Bondo, and then the spray primer, and then of course the buff prime. And it's almost ready to paint, but I got to sand it down one more time with 400 grit or 600 grit and get it ready for the base coat. Then it'll be cleared after that. So those are the 3 stages of this I thought you might find interesting to see on the process of paint and body work. So I'll be doing a lot more of this as I get to the front end and get the fenders over there. You can see those are in 2 different stages. The gray primer there is just a primer I had on hand I was using. It'll get covered with the buff primer. I think that yellow fender also, that buff fender was gray at one time, but a lot of work over there. That's another project. But anyway, wanted you to see the 3 stages. No bare metal prep here. We'll do that some other time, but there'll be plenty of that coming on other projects. Okay, so I thought this might be interesting to show. This is really smooth now. I did it with 180 grit. As I started working on it, I realized I hadn't done it with 220 yet. Got a couple little spots in here that I'm not totally happy with. That won't take long there. But for the most part, this is pretty well ready for the other primer. Got enough bare metal on here. I'll probably dust it with some etching primer just to etch into that metal a little bit. That way, if there's any surface corrosion, that will convert it. And then it'll be ready for the buff prime. So you can see how smooth that is. It's got a couple little marks, but for the most part, it's pretty well ready to go for the next coat of primer. So this one I just started, and you can see how smooth it is here. But you see as I bring it around, you got all this dimpling. All that has to be sanded out. It has to be perfectly smooth. Now the nice thing about a small part like this is it doesn't have to be perfectly flat like you would on a big door panel, because you're not going to see it. There's a big rubber seal here, chrome here. This is so minor, unless there's a major flaw here, it's not like you're going to notice any minor imperfections and waves. But I just, as I was going along here, I was looking at it, I thought, well, that might be interesting to see the progress of, because I'm starting to take off those high spots when it goes from being very smooth up there to where I've worked on it, to going around. You can see the further I go, the rougher it gets until it's not touched over here. So anyway, that's progress there. Keep going at it. I'll show you when it's done. Okay, so this is why we do what we do. Just notice that there is a flaw right here. See if you can see it. Yeah, there's a crack right there. Not sure if that's in the polyester or if there may have been a little mud in there, so I need to address that on this one, which is the other reason why I dust it with this Nason DuPont product. It's an etching primer. I just like to cover up the bare metal with a primer that's designed to etch itself into it. It's expensive. I mean, it's like 20 bucks a spray can, but it's worth it. If I'm doing bigger parts, I don't use a rattle can like that. I just use that for little spots. The other thing I've got is a little chip. You can see that right there. Didn't notice that either till I got the gray on there. So I got to let this dry, and then I'll just take this one. I'll probably put a little teeny bit of spot putty on. Excuse me. And sand that out. That'll come out quick, but those little flaws will show up, and we want to be obviously making sure that those are gone. So there is a big rubber seal that goes around here. My guess is most of that would be hidden, but rather than I'll probably get the seal and put it up there just to look at it and see what it looks like. So but I'm pretty sure I'm going to need to fill that just a little bit. I might be able to get that out of there in the buff prime, but I'd rather not, because it'll shrink over time and it might show up again. These are what separates show cars from everything else. Another comment that I wanted to make here, and I'll just flip this up so you can see my beautiful face. I'm doing these videos not so much as training, but just as exposure. There's a wide variety of people that watch this. My son, who started doing this stuff when he was 6 or 8 years old, probably I got pictures of him sanding on my 31 Ford way back in the mid-90s, probably 96 to 98, somewhere in that area. He's been doing this a long time, and I've taught him how to do it, but on the other hand, he's way better at this stuff than I am, and you'll see that when you look at his Charger. Two other friends that I know that are watching this who have no clue about any of this. So I'm just trying to do it as an exposure to what the process is, the kind of time it takes, what you have to go through, and also obviously documenting the process on the car. So just doing this for your fun and entertainment. I know you're enjoying it. I'm enjoying doing it. So we'll go from there. I'm going to go get that rubber seal and see what this looks like. Okay, so I've got the seal here in my hand. If this was on the bottom side, I probably wouldn't mess with it. Trying to show you. The seal goes up around this lip like this, and you can see that, oh, probably half of that's going to be exposed. So I'm going to want to get that out of there. The other one, that crack is actually on the bottom side, and I'm not so sure it's a crack as, I'm not sure. I'm going to sand that out of there and see what we got. This one's not as fussy though, because it is on the bottom side. This goes on the car just like this, so it's way down here. So I'll get these sanded out of there a little bit and see what we got, but I gotta wait for this primer to drive a bit more. It's still pretty gummy. So the other thing you'll notice is I have no problem doing a little force drying here in front of my heater to just make sure that things get dried the way I want them, because that's the one with the crack. That's the one I want to focus on first. And then when I'm working on that one, once it's dry, I'll put this one up there to dry and get this little bugaboo worked out of here. So be back as that is dry. Okay, so this is why we check things out. Got the other one all fixed. It ended up needing to be sanded more, so I'll show you that. I already sanded that one down and touched it. What I found in this one, for some reason, it rusted a little more back in there and split the bondo. That's where that crack came from. So I ground out all the metal again, and last time I didn't make a patch. So I took out all the bad metal, including the stuff that was paper thin, and I'm going to weld a little patch in here. So you'll get to see that process here as I work on that. This won't take long to do. I need to do a little grinder work on it yet. It's a little rougher on the edges, but I'm going to grind down a little patch, weld that in there, and make it look pretty. So here we go on that. Okay, so I've got my little patch made here. It's cut to fit perfect like a piece of puzzle. So I'll weld that, and then I'll take my grinder afterwards and cut that off to match that edge. I want to have a little extra there for a couple of reasons. One thing, it gives me something to hold on to, and that way I can just form fit it. So I'm happy with that. I just got to grind the surfaces of this down a little bit so I can weld it. Take it over there, and I don't have a welding bench right now. So I'm using the fender of my Challenger, but don't tell anybody. I'll just use this piece of countertop on top of it like you've seen me do before for now. If that was a finished car, I'd never do that, obviously. So anyway, this will work well, I think. I think we're in good shape. I got a little trim to do down here, I see. But otherwise, we're ready to rock and roll on this thing. So, well, actually, nope, we're good. It's just a matter of fitting it right. So I got to grind the paint off so I can weld it, and then we'll get that done. Okay, so pardon some of the bird crap here. Had a hard time getting it started. The metal was a little bit thinner, but that's going to turn out really nice now. I'll get that ground down, and I'll show you what that looks like here in just a minute. So progress. I got some good penetration down here. The metal was just a bit thinner up here than I thought, but I was able to get it fill welded. I'll grind it down, and if I need to go over it again, I will, but I quite frankly think it's going to be good. So got to get out the DeWalt grinder and go after it. So the metal forming is basically done now. Piece is welded in. Looks good. Feels good. I'm going to go over it with a file a little bit more here just to get things rounded out just a bit more. Said it is on the bottom side, so it ain't got to be perfect, but I want it to look good. Phone battery's almost dead here, of course. So I think we're in golden shape here. Just getting the edges to look good. Yeah. I had somebody question me just recently about how I know all this stuff. What the heck we got going on there? Okay, nothing, just another edge. Factory seam there, pretty sure. Yep, it is. Okay. How do I know all of this stuff? Well, I started doing this stuff when I was in high school. That's not really where I learned it. I didn't know, quite frankly, what I was doing when I was in high school. But when I was in college, I actually worked in and then managed a hot rod shop. I was the engine builder, and I learned how to paint cars there. Used to help out the body shop manager a lot, doing custom cars. Did a lot of work there. And then off and on through the years, I've worked in hot rod shops and body shops, doing, I don't know how many cars I've done, 100 probably, pieces of or complete jobs. And so working with the different paint and body guys that I did over the years is how I learned to do all this stuff in the body shops. And I never did it full time, but I did it enough that I learned a lot. So next step on this is to go over this with a wire wheel, clean it up a little bit more, put a little skim coat of tiger hair on there to make sure everything is strong. And then I may not even need to put any Bondo on it. We'll see, but that's the next step. So that wasn't part of my plan here, but I'm really pleased with the way that's turned out. I got one little pinhole in the weld, but it's not through. It's just more of an edge, so I'm going to let that go. It'll be fine, especially since it sits on the car like this. So it's not going to crack. It's not going to show. You'll not see it at all. You'll see that when I'm done. Okay, so here's what we got. Cover up my liquid gold. I only have a little teeny bit left, and I'm not going to be able to get any until this silly social distancing thing is over. So, okay, so I got it all formed in. I got to go, excuse me, 30 years of working in body shops. Lungs are shot, so I'm very sensitive to everything. Anyway, so I got it all mudded in, welded up. It's not perfect yet. It needs a coat of good primer, but a couple little marks in it, but I'm very happy with it. And so the etching primer's on there, all the bare metal's covered up. There's a couple little teeny rust spots there that I'm not going to try to fix. If I tried to weld into this, all it's going to do is just continue disappearing. And it's on the bottom side. So my plan, if I get this right, yes. My plan for that is, it's barely visible. So if I had to, I might put a little bit of silicone in there, black silicone that matches this gasket. So, oops, sorry. So if put a little black silicone in there but you can see it hardly shows. It's on the bottom side. I'm going to play that by ear. I don't want to try to weld there because there's just not enough material there. I'd end up having to cut way back into here, and I don't want to do that. For that little teeny edge there, it'll look fine. You won't even know it. So here we go. Yep, was in a little worse shape than I thought, but overall it's drying up nice. So I can't really do much more with this right now. It's got to dry for a couple of hours. So I'm good to go there. The other one is up there drying a little bit right now. Looks like it's pretty well good to go. Switch them out here to see what I got. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so that'll hang there and dry. I'm going to put that a little bit more direct now, I think. Yeah, that's good. I won't let it stay there too long, but that'll help force dry it a little bit. And probably about all I'm going to get done today. I was hoping to get some primer on there, but not sure yet. We'll see. Okay, so I'm still sitting here stirring paint. It's getting there finally. I don't have a paint shaker. I've always wanted to get one. I've looked for them like at shop sales and auctions and stuff, but I haven't found anything that I was thrilled with. But I've only been working on this now for about 15 minutes, but I think it's getting there. There's still a little goo in the bottom, so I got a little more to do. But this paint's been sitting on the shelf for this primer for 5 years, so I can't complain. It's still good. So anyway, I'm just here stirring this up and getting ready to mix it up, and I'm going to shoot a little bit of primer on both of those tail lights. So we'll move forward from there. Parts are all prepped and ready. The primer feels pretty good here, so I'm not doing this on slow-mo. Stuff's a little dusty out here, but this is primer, so I'm not too worried about it. I have some cleaner stuff, but I like using up this stuff that's not the best for when I'm doing priming. Okay, I'm pretty comfortable with that. It could use a bit more, but I'm going to leave it with that for now. Oh yeah, still some pretty good solids on the stick, but that's to be expected. Get this cleaned out here real good. There we go. I'm just taking a guess as to how much I'm going to have to mix up here. Let's get this over there. Make sure I'm not going to spill over on my mixing ratios. There's a good spot. I got 2 holes that I punch in the top of the can in here for paint to drill, or the paint to drip back in. So I used to know all the ratios on this stuff inside out, but it's been a long time since I've done this, so, well, not that long. I did a chuck for a customer a couple of years ago now, so it's not been that long. And I think the mixing ratio on this is 4-to-1, so we'll see where we come out in my cup here. Oh. 4-to-1. That's 4-to-1-to-1. Probably the best way to do it's going to be over here. Just at about 4 ounces, so if I put another ounce of hardener in, that should do it. About 100 milliliters, so 25 milliliters of activator will work. This is a fairly inexpensive DuPont product, Nason primer. That's the buff color that I've used on this car under this red for a long time. Most of the cars got this under it. About $25 for a quart, so about $100 a gallon. Not bad for price, considering what paint costs are these days. And the activator for this size is, well, that's the prices I paid for it 6 or 7 years ago. I'm sure it's a lot more than that now. I think this was about $50 for the activator. So Okay, let's see here. So 4-to-1. Yep, I did end up at just about 4 ounces. So 1 ounce. I think that's good. Maybe a little rich on the activator, but that's not a bad thing. It'll dry faster. It is cool in the shop, so it's always a judgment call. Okay. Store that on the floor for the moment. Get this mixed in. Good. Parts are already prepped, as you saw in the slow-mo video or the time-lapse video. Very tedious process, takes time, but you just can't rush, which is funny for me because I'm always impatient. About ready to load the gun up here. One of the challenges with this little touch-up gun that I use, very small, and something's missing in the front of it here, but I checked the spray pattern, it's okay. This shouldn't spin like that, but I can't get it to tighten. I think there's a plastic washer missing. But I got more filters and regulators on it than the gun itself, so that's unique. Normally I would filter this if it was paint, being as it's primer, and I just filtered it going in the cup. I'm not going to. So we'll fill this little bugger up. It's a high volume, low pressure gun. I guess right on the ounces. It's full. Hopefully it's enough to do both the tail lights. So there we go. If I had a holder for that gun like I do this one, I could just set it right in there to do my mixing, but I don't. So I end up wasting a little product, but that's all right. And of course I forgot my respirator. Put that on. So let's see if we can get this to hold here without spilling. Yeah, we're good. All right, I'm going to turn you off for now, get you moved over there. Get my respirator out of the bag here, get it on, and we'll do a time lapse of the spraying process. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry to the touch, and then we'll give it more. And I still got a lot in there, so I'm going to get that bumper cover out and give that a light dusting with what's left. I may not cover it all, but I might as well use this up since it's mixed. I don't want to throw it away. So I thought it might be kind of fun to do this one real time rather than time lapse. I'm going to touch the taillights one more time. They're dry enough now. I can shoot them one more time. And whatever's left, I'm going to put on some spots on the bumperette that I'm concerned about and touch those up just a touch. And I'll do that till I'm out of primer in the gun, and then I'm done for the day. So things need to dry for about 24 hours before I can start sanding. And then the next step on this, if everything's good, is I will be able to base coat and clear coat this. So I will be checking out my base coat, make sure it's still good and stuff like that. But that's what's next. Guess I don't need to shut that off, do I?
Okay, I'll do you a quick walk around here and show you what we got. Was the perfect amount of paint, so that's good.
Okay, I know one question that people will ask, or maybe notice or comment on, so I'll just address it right now. Why am I not got the other cars in here covered up? I've got a real good airflow across this shop. There's another fan in the back corner over there that moves the air, and this is the exhaust fan spraying right in front of this. So any overspray that's here is just going that way for the most part. You'll see a little cloud here and then it's gone. So if I was doing big stuff, I would have everything covered up, but because I'm doing such little pieces with such a small gun, there's not much overspray, it's very contained. And when I do the fenders, things will be a lot different in here, but I'm just using my little touch-up gun to do these small parts. I think they're great. I'll sand them down with, I'll wet sand them probably with, starting with 320, or probably touch them with 320 dry. And then wet sand them with 400, 600, maybe go to 800 before I base coat it. I don't like to get too carried away on the primer. I might leave it at 400 because I like to have something to bite. It all depends on how I feel about it. And of course, once we get the clear coat on there, we'll be taking it up to 2,000 grit once we sand the clear coat before we wheel it all out and polish it. At least on the bumperette. Tail lights, unless there's a lot of orange peel, whatever comes out of the gun is probably what they're going to be because they're so small, unless they're really orange peely. A lot of that's going to depend on the weather. I'm not able to get propane for my big furnace, so it's going to be what it is. But I got to get the fan shut off, get the heat back on in here, and I'm going to shut this down for a while, let things air out, let that stuff dry real good. And if the weather's better tomorrow, hopefully I'll be able to sand this down. Well, whether the weather tomorrow is, it doesn't matter. I'll be sanding this down hopefully tomorrow. And if the weather's decent and it's warm enough, I may just go ahead and try to get this basic clear on there, because I want to get this stuff on the back of the car and finish the back of the car and work my way forward. I got the quarter window in. I want to get the other one in. Then I've got to check and make sure that engine, that engine's still leaking oil, so I'm gonna have to pull that engine out. So after I'm done with this part of the body work, I may work on the fenders, but the engine's got to come out to get that rear main seal fixed. So again, thanks for watching this episode. I don't remember if it's 6 maybe of My Car's Shop, and hope you're enjoying the progress on my 47 Ford. Rock!